All right, hey guys, Sam here with you. We're midday Tuesday, March 27th, and as we do every day, we put the video analysis up to a vote. And today, members are looking for updates, it would seem, on all the majors. So we're going to be covering Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. We'll start here with Bitcoin. So since the last video I did here, just to kind of do a quick review here, I'm still leaning towards the bullish count. And I'm basing that off of this being a completed 5-wave series. We came down here. As I showed you previously, ABC, we've got a potential pivot low here, a technical pivot for this potential 2 low here. Now, it's been challenged here with the depth of this retracement, but it looks like we might have the potential for this to be setting up as a 786 and then into another 786. We'll see here. Now, so there's the 4-hour here. I'm on Bitfinex. So if we'll go down to the 1 hour and we can kind of dig into this count in more detail. Now, there's really, there's a couple of ways we could count this, but let me show you why I'm deferring to this count. So let me open this up here a little bit more so I can show this to you here so you can see how the median line is. The internals seem to be grabbing it here, but this has contained the market on the entire way down. So, but just for the sake of clarity here, I'm going to pull this off so you guys can see it a little bit more. Now, here's, we're kind of in between here, right? So potentially a front run on the 786, but I think what we may likely have here is setting up for one more push down. So if we look here on the assumption here that, as I've shown you, that we would be trading this as an A, B, and then we're coming down trying to finish the C here on this larger degree. If we dig in here, pretty clear 1 wave here and pretty clear 2 wave. Now this is where it gets a little tricky because we have 2 possible scenarios here. If we take and this is all we can do is measure and look for probability zones. So if we take our alternate projection tool and we take the length of 1, and we project from our pivot on the 2, and we look for high probability zones. Well, if this in blue here, so if I put here in blue, so this would be potentially projecting for a 3rd down here. Well, here's the high probability zone for that 3rd. Oh, come here. Down here, here's our 1618, 175 window. We don't make it there. So we're kind of in between. Here's the 272 and the 161, kind of no man's land. Whenever I see that, I'm a little suspect of the absolute finality of that pivot. Doesn't mean it couldn't be our pivot, but it makes me want to dig in a little bit more. So allowing for that, then I can see within this potentially, as I have it labeled, the 3rd wave here, we've got very clear 5-wave subdivision to give us an impulse. Despite this big 4 that we have here, you can see we don't overlap the 1. So if we were wicking this off, as I would, be wicking that off. And then additionally, this wave 1 here. So these are significant pivots as we come up looking for retrace. So we can see a 1, 2, 3, potentially there's the 4. We don't overlap the 1. We come down, we finish in 5. Now here's why I'm deferring to this count. So in this scenario here now, if I take the length of my 1 and I project it from my 2, what you'll see now down here, you see how the 3rd comes in right here, right in the pocket of the 1618, 175, which leads me to believe that I've got a good 3rd there relative to this 1, 2. Suggesting that this is my 3rd. I've retraced into the 4. Granted, it's deep, no question about it. So let me pull this off here. So very deep for a potential 4th, but look how quickly we roll over. So just checking that, right? So this is what creates a question mark in your mind. So if we look here, we get a spike through the 6.5. Right, so somewhat surprising here that we went that far, but that was that was yesterday afternoon where we had this huge bar here and we had this spike and then it was immediately rejected. So I still defer to this count here as potentially finishing up our 3rd. Now this price action here, excuse me, looks more corrective than impulsive. If this was our hard pivot low, we'd be looking for more definition here. We'd be looking for something that would imply an impulsive start and a move off of this low. What I see here is likely we're just chopping sideways. So this looks to me like a potential fourth wave going in. So now if let me take this off so you can see it a little better. So let's get that cleared up. So now if we look at this and I take my potential second here, come here, my second, come here. I can do this. There we go. Down to my third potential third. Well, we can see here, right? So all we've done is just come right to this little pocket here from the 38 to the 23. And we can really, if we dig in there, there's a bit of a three-wave structure to it to suggest that this is likely putting in a 4. If that's our 4, then we can see these targets down here. Here's our negative 23 as a potential fifth wave target. Well, I would want to measure a couple of other things. I would want to look for a relationship between the one wave for the fifth wave, and I don't know for sure that I've got my fourth in here, but it's a contender. Now, high probability zones for that fifth relative to the length of the one is the 618 right here, and interestingly, that we nailed that just to add more confusion. So we nail that here, right? So not a contender for a third, as it's not long enough. But interesting, so one scenario is we come down here, we double bottom. If we're going to get to the algo target here, then in effect working for this as a 4, we can see here we get a little confluence zone down here. So we get this spot down here where we get the 100 highest probability target, statistically speaking, for a wave 5. So the length of wave 1, if indeed this is our wave 4, if it turns out to be, then the 100%, the length of the 1 projected from the pivot high, in this case, of the 4, would be down here at 100%. So we get this little confluence zone. So then we put that back in context of what we're trying to establish here for a retracement. So now if I go from my swing low to my swing high, well, this is deep now. So this is slightly problematic for us in terms of statistical analysis of where we might anticipate that second wave. So I could go down to the 887, and that's really a last stand. And you can see here we come in here right on top of this cluster here that we're establishing. So we have this nice confluence zone. 887 literally is on top of the 100%. So kind of interesting now. So it looks to me like if indeed this is going to play as our 4, we don't know yet for sure. So right now we're still hypothetical here, but given this price action, that's a contender. So we can't lock on this just yet. We need to see, what we really need to see is, are we going to come down in 5? So we would need to see a move lower and then a swing high and then get a failure to get past this pivot. So in effect, we'd get a move down, a pivot up, and we'd get a lower high, implying that we have a good pivot there, which would suggest that we've got this last push down here, potentially that far, to get to the algo target, the 100% from the 4 to for the length of the 1 from the 4 for the 5, and then the 887 as an extreme last stand for second wave. Right, of this being, so this being our the larger degree second, and then this playing as a 1-2. Right, so that's a scenario, but we know we have the 618 here potentially as well. So can we get that kind of subdivision? So even if I go down to the 15-minute here and start to dig into this, what's important to us, do we get a 1-2? Can we get this thing to finish in 5? So now as I break this down a little bit more, we can get the idea of where our target is. So if I scrunch this a little bit and we look here, so here's our target down here. So we could, we want to see this finish in 5. So we're looking for something along these lines to come here. So let's get that degree a little bit more reasonable, and we'll show that wave. So that's what we're looking for. Can we get a good one, get the retrace? So this is the lower high relative to the 4. That will confirm that as our 4. Right, and then we get the push down for our third, retrace one more time, and can we finish in 5? If we do, then despite the depth of that retracement relative to the entire move, so if I pull back out, that's at the 887, I'd still be looking for that as entry for the long side. right? But you know, one of the advantages of being a buyer here that deep into a retracement is that the stop can be very, very tight. There's no reason to take it much beyond. So, you know, maybe $50. There's no reason to take much risk beyond that 887. So that would be a last stand. So I'd be very close. So if I were looking at that, you know, maybe $50 below the 887 as a max. So do we finish in 5? That would, again, that warms us up to the idea here that there's a last stand down here. We go down, and then we've got an entry to be a buyer here. Now this, you know, I'm hypothetical here. It's like we don't know for sure that that's happening. This might, you know, be some sort of a wacky diagonal that's getting started. We can't be sure. We can't be sure. But right now, that is the probability map that I see. One more push down. Right, the only other thing we can do is start to look for some geometry, even down here at this level. So obvious thing would be to work the channel connecting the 2 and the 4, if that's our 4. Right, so we can do something like this. So we get this target down here. A break of this channel might have us rethinking that. And then additionally, we can always go to a pitchfork here. So I would, in this case, work from the 1 to the 2. Right, you can see we got it here for the 3. That's probably too steep now, so if I were to take that looking for our 5th, if I went to shift, which is a move down, you know, that might be too much. There's modified, right, which is in effect, it's the same thing, right? So modified is exactly the same as the channel. So that kind of lines us up down here with our lower parallel for this sitting down here. Right, so that kind of looks interesting to me. Now we do get the time component, so it could be over here. That's tomorrow, right? So I'm on a 15-minute chart. So, you know, I would be looking for some geometry to support any sort of buy decision here. And then if you got any support from the oscillators here, you know, you can see we had the divergence here for for this 5. If we're going to roll over, here's our ISI rolling over again. If we're going to get one more recycle down here, then that's a reasonable spot. Same thing here with the Elliott wave indicator. If we get one more push down and we maintain this weakening of the trend and we get more divergence down here, then that just adds to the credibility of that buy. That's what I'm seeing. That's the roadmap that I'm playing. Now there are more bearish scenarios to consider, but until we take out that 887, I still think this is all corrective. So if we go back out, if I take it to the hourly, we are still within an internal retracement, swing low to swing high. We are still internal, and we're you know, potentially going very deep, but until it takes out that wave, this potential wave 2 low, we've got an internal retracement making a deep retracement, looking for a technical pivot. That's the best we can do. All right, guys, that's what I see. All right, I'll be back with you later.